genetic defect. Like, that's ridiculous.
Based off of the diagnosis, they said that the baby had slim to no chance of survival.
Right.
Welcome to the Not For Nothing podcast, the place where ideas unfold and conversations take flight. Topics such as relationships, everyday life struggles, and more with your hosts, Christopher Michael and Robert Evan.
What's going on, Robbie?
Hello, Christopher Michael.
How are you, bud?
Any better, I'd be you. Have you seen those videos of things that white people say?
I've seen a lot of videos of things white people say, but I'm sure you're referencing a specific
one.
one.
It's like things that like corny dads say.
Right.
Like when you're standing in line and they're like, looks like we got here just in time.
Right.
Whenever they see you packing for a trip, it's like, you got room for me in that suitcase?
Oh, dude, it's so cheesy. I feel like the older I get, the cheesier the shit I say, too.
Yeah.
I always catch myself saying, oh, man, my dad used to say that. So annoying.
You start talking about the weather a lot more.
Yeah, right. The good
we really needed that rain.
The good old days. Yeah. I remember back when I was in college. Like, oh, God, shoot me now.
I think we talked about it. Like, I wonder if the memories I have, like, how did they happen the way I remember them?
Probably not exactly. I mean, I would think after a certain age, probably.
Yeah, like for the most part, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, imagining I was places I wasn't, but I'm like, did he say that, or did she say that, or did I say that? I'm like, I just question it now as I'm getting older. I'm like, it's not getting better.
No, I remember certain things when I was younger, like pieces of them.
Yeah, it's like flashes of a dream kind of thing.
Right, like I remember like very specific things, but not like how I got there or how it came about. Right. But I remember being there
just
for
like a
something.
Dream. Like,
right.
You don't know how you got there. You don't remember it really ending. You're just...
I know it happened, and I remember when it was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today, what else I think is crazy? How we are constantly always looking to change things in our world that have worked for extended periods of time. Perfect example, we've been talking about abortion lately.
Yeah.
And how recently they decided to overturn Roe versus Wade, which is just, to me, something that was put into play in 1973 by the Supreme Court that has always worked, kept everybody happy. And we just have to always stick our noses into something and completely flip everything we do.
Yeah.
And for what? For what reason? To just create drama because they think it's going to be popular with people during an election year? Like, I don't understand. And it's pretty wild to me what's going on today with abortion and the extreme views and everything that they're doing within our country to make sure that these women can't have abortions.
I wouldn't dismiss it as just political clout, if I could use that word loosely, or pandering. I do think that the people who are pro-life and like pro-life extremists, they truly believe what they say. Like, I do believe that at all.
Yeah, no, I believe that. But what I'm saying is, I mean, inevitably it was the Supreme Court who overturned it. Like, it was politicians that pushed this agenda forward.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, they could have touched it any time over the last, since 1973. No one's ever even attempted to touch it. And I haven't heard over the last couple of years any kind of fucking uproar from pro-lifers to overturn Roe versus Wade. I mean, have you? Do you remember anything specific that would have provoked something like that? I just remember waking up one day and it was overturned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it got passed, but like a month prior, like it had already been voted on. It just wasn't announced yet. And that was May of 2022. And then it got passed or overturned, I should say, in June of 2022, if I have that right. No, I don't. Listen, you always see people, picketing and people,
right.
Marching. And God bless. That's one of the beautiful things of, our country. You have the right to voice your opinion. The problem I have with it, the biggest problem I have with it fundamentally is it comes down to you telling somebody what they can and cannot do. And it just completely dismisses the idea of bodily autonomy.
Right.
Meaning, simply put, a person knows what is best for their own body,
right.
for themselves. And whether that be, they can physically feel it, they know it, whether it be that they've had conversations with their healthcare provider, right. with their significant other, with their family, with their loved ones, with people that they trust. This, to me, takes away entirely the idea of bodily autonomy regarding reproductive rights. Saying you don't know what is best for yourself, but this is what is best for the country.
Right.
It's fucking bullshit.
No, the government should never be getting involved in any decision-making for anybody as far as their body goes.
Right.
But aside from that, aside from what they feel, the other side of it is some people are actually, fairly responsible, right? And may just think that it's not responsible of them at that time to bring a child into the world based on their life circumstances, who they are. Maybe they're fucking drug addicts. Maybe they're just struggling to make a living and they can't afford to have a child, and the child's going to live in poverty with them, or
maybe they just don't want a kid.
Right, or maybe
what's best for them at this point in their life. The idea of bringing a child into this world is sacred. And I would also argue the idea of not having children is also sacred.
Right.
It is a personal choice defined by the individual.
It's an important decision in anybody's life.
Yeah.
And for it to happen unexpectedly, it's a big decision to make. And, some people do it for maybe the wrong reasons. But, I would think, a majority of people do it because they're just simply not ready to have a child. Right. And I think that's fine, at 100%. I don't think anybody should be criticized for it. Obviously there's certain lines, but I think today what's going on is it's extreme. I mean, everything that they're doing, it's gone from overturning Roe versus Wade to literally the complete extreme side of it, to them now trying to create charges to bring up against the doctors and the women who decide to carry out these abortions. I mean, they even want to charge the people who advise women places to go to get the abortions.
Oh yeah,
which is ridiculous.
So the biggest one now is Kate Cox down in, I think she's in Fort Worth or Dallas, but in Texas.
She's in Texas, right.
And since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, essentially Texas has, along with, I think there's 13 other states, but Texas has extremely harsh anti-abortion laws. I think there's 3 separate laws that overlap regarding the inability for you to get an abortion. So the one exception that Texas has, along with other states, but specifically Texas, is that regarding pregnancy, the only way abortion would be allowed, and you still have to petition the courts to get it approved,
of course,
is if the pregnancy poses a serious risk of substantial impairment of a major bodily function.
Right.
So for quick reference, if you get raped when you're 13, but you're able to carry the baby to term,
right,
it's illegal to get an abortion in Texas. Let's just start with that.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has always been extreme, I guess, with regards to that. But I mean, Kate Cox is a unique example. She was 20 weeks into her pregnancy. She was 31 years old, and she learned that the fetus has trisomy 18, which was a genetic condition that gave the fetus slim to no chance of survival. And from what I understand, she also would have been putting at risk whether or not she could conceive another child down the road had she went through with the pregnancy.
Now, let's stop real quick. How did she know that her inability to conceive in the future could have been affected?
Through physicians.
Oh, she had a medical professional.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So after, I know she appealed the courts, and the courts, the
Texas Supreme Court inevitably overturned it.
First it got approved.
Yes.
And they said, yes, based off of your condition, we are going to grant you this exception.
Correct.
Then the Texas State Attorney General got involved. Ken Paxton, once it was approved, he immediately appealed to the Texas Supreme Court.
Hold that thought for a second. How the fuck, I mean, did he just get like a memorandum that she was approved? Like how the fuck did he even find out that quickly to get that involved so fast?
One, I bet they have watchdogs looking out for this stuff.
It's like wild. It's like, why the fuck he wasn't even on the case? Like, why is he, like, where the fuck do you come into this, dude?
Telling a woman and her healthcare provider that it's not, the fact that you might not be able to conceive in the future is not what we consider a major bodily function. We'll get into this more over quote unquote what a major bodily function is.
But the fact that the baby's going to potentially die during the pregnancy or after, or come out with some kind of fucking genetic defect. Like, that's ridiculous.
Based off of the diagnosis, they said that the baby had slim to no chance of survival.
Right. Which is,
so the healthcare provider deemed that, which is,
they did,
as far as I could tell, not gray. It's
pretty black and white.
This is my opinion as a healthcare provider offering these services. So you had Ken Paxton, who appealed to the Texas Supreme Court, sent a warning letter, which was then shared on social media to all of the hospitals, or some of the local hospitals where Kate Cox might have gone to have the abortion performed.
Right.
Saying like, look, first we're appealing this, and anybody who does, what do you say? To any of the doctors saying that they would face penalties despite the lower court's permission. And on Friday, they put a hold on her ruling of the approval.
Well, let's be clear real quick. That's far from a warning letter. There's a fucking outright threat.
Yes.
To the hospitals.
Yeah. Now, at this point, the Texas Supreme Court did not make a ruling, but he's still sending threatening letters saying, hey, look, understand if you do this, you could face. And the penalties are pretty extreme.
Oh, for sure.
$100,000, which is a lot of money to anybody.
Right.
Loss of your license.
Right.
And life in prison.
It's ridiculous.
Life in prison.
For an unborn child, for something that's not even, it's something that's in the infantry stage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like infancy stage. Like it's.
Yeah, 20 weeks in. I get it. I get it.
Like,
it's the second trimester. It's not ideal, but that's when it was diagnosed. That's when it was caught. It had slim to no chance of survival. It had the potential to have a major impact on her body in the future. She has 2 kids already. Clearly looks like she wanted to have the ability to have more in the future.
Right.
What's even more fucked up is that in the lawsuit that Kate Cox and her husband filed to be able to first be approved for the abortion in the state of Texas, she had to list her husband as one of the plaintiffs, one of the people who was supporting her, because the other law states that anybody in the state of Texas here, at the same time, all of Texas abortion laws target doctors to perform abortions with penalties. Talked about what the penalties could be. The law also states that people who help women get abortions can also be held liable under one of those 3 laws. Those 3 abortion laws I talked about that overlap, which says anyone can sue a person for helping someone get an abortion. So a person who drives their wife to the hospital for an illegal abortion in Texas could be sued by anyone, anywhere for the assistance.
Right. Which is outrageous.
So you have your husband physically driving you to receive the abortion after the lower courts approved it, based off of the opinion and professional opinion of your primary healthcare provider.
Right. So I almost kind of wonder, though, like, is there, what if they should have just done it, right? They should have just done it because it was approved, unless there was some form of cease or desist in order while they were doing the appeal.
I get it, but I mean, the doctors also don't want to risk their careers. And if you think about what a doctor does, they're important. And the idea that you could have a 33-year-old doctor who could be performing life-saving things for the next 30 years to face imprisonment, $100,000 fine, or loss of their license, it's fucking insane. There's no clarity. There's still no clarity on what specifically, when they use the term poses a serious risk of substantial impairment of a major bodily function. That's not specific. What is a major bodily function to you versus to me?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Losing your pinky would probably be a major bodily function to you based off the fact that you work in construction. I type on a computer. I'd be fine.
Right.
So who is to say what a major bodily function is to you?
Well, at the end of the day, you have to leave it up to the doctors to decide whether or not somebody should be within that structure where they can be eligible for an abortion. And if you're not going to take the advice of the professional advisement of a physician, then who are you going to listen to? Like, you're just basically at that point taking it into your own hands, and you're not the professional. You're the person ruling on it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's got to come from a professional, someone in the medical field. You can't say, oh, well, your fucking reasoning is not good enough.
For me.
Right. Like, it falls underneath the guidelines that we have set, but it just doesn't meet my personal criteria.
And for me personally, that's not a major bodily
It's
function.
ridiculous. Then who are you listening to? Then what are you basing it off of? If you're not going to base it off of the physician's medical advice, who do this for a living, by the way, what exactly are you basing it off of?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that this woman also had to leave her own home state to go have this procedure done. A state that she pays fucking taxes in. Like, she had to travel out of her own home to have this procedure done. It's outrageous. Like, what are we doing to these women?
What's fucked up is she didn't wait. She went to another state.
I don't blame her.
And that is legal in the state of Texas. You are free to travel to another state where abortion is legal.
Right.
I know from what I was researching, there was confusion that if you're a resident of said state, can you go to another? Yes, you're totally free to do that. But, again, some people might not have the means. They might not have access to a car. They might not have the money to do it. I know the Planned Parenthood website does a wonderful job of being able to offer those services and tell you where you can find financing for such things. After Ken Paxton sent his letter to the Texas Supreme Court saying that, no, wait, we gotta look into this further. She said, fuck it, I'm not waiting. Like, this could be a problem. I'm going to go to another state and get done.
Right.
So instead of Texas Supreme Court just dismissing her case, which you think they would do, they said, no, we're still going to give you a ruling on it. So they gave a 7-page, which I read, and I just dragged a paragraph from it, which I do want to read because I think it's extremely relevant. The All-Republican Court writes that the Texas legislature has delegated to the medical, rather than the legal, profession the decision about when a woman's medical circumstances warrant this exception. This decision notes that Cox has a very complicated pregnancy and quote-unquote tragic diagnosis. Despite this, the court goes on to say, some difficulties in pregnancy, however, even serious ones, do not pose the heightened risks to the mother the exception encompasses. And it concludes by granting Paxton's request to throw out the lower court's ruling that would have had Cox to have an abortion legally in Texas. So essentially what the Supreme Court just did was flat out say, yes, major medical, what was it? Make sure I get this quoting right. Substantial impairment of a major bodily function. The Texas Supreme Court just told Kate Cox, you don't qualify.
Right.
Your ability to possibly conceive and bear children in the future is not what we consider a serious medical or a serious medical impairment.
Right. Well, I mean, listen, let's be fucking clear about something. Let's just say that they thought, hey, you know what? Let's just say, if I could even wrap my head around some kind of bizarre rationalization like this, let's just say they said, all right, to themselves, all right, well, the baby's going to be born, so the baby will live. And at that point, that's what's most important. You have a child, you're blessed. If you don't have another child, so be it. But you're going to have this one. Under the circumstance that this was a natural, like completely, this was a birth that had no issues attached to it. It did not. The baby had almost no chance of survival. Aside from the fact they were going to put her at risk for future children, the baby had almost next to no chance of survival. And anytime someone goes under the knife, it's a risk. Women die giving birth all the time.
The U.S. mortality rate for infants is shockingly high.
It's insane. Like it doesn't even need to be something that could happen to you down the road. They should immediately be looking at the fact that, okay, this child has maybe a 5% chance of survival through pregnancy. Now you're going to what? You're going to put someone under the knife through a major surgical procedure that has a history of women dying just giving childbirth. So why you're basically, the moment you push it through, you're immediately putting her life at risk just to give birth to a child that may not survive to begin with. I don't care about the aftermath of it. Just that in itself, like that should be enough.
Should be.
I mean, seriously.
Tell me this isn't the fucking Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
You're telling people what their body is. You're saying to a woman, even after she's had a medical healthcare professional say,
right,
look, this is what it is. We've tested. We can prove the diagnosis.
Right.
This is what it is. You have the court saying, well, it's not serious enough.
No,
you out of your fucking mind?
It's insane. And just to give everybody a little insight on what The Handmaid's Tale is. So I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. I know there's a lot of fans for it. But The Handmaid's Tale is basically a dystopian movie where basically the U.S. government is overthrown and now is called Gilead. The men rule the world and the handmaids are basically the lowest form of woman on the totem pole. And they're really just used for breeding for what's called the commanders, which are the husbands, okay, for the sterile wives that they have, right? So basically these women, and this will touch on how I think it's related to, they're forcing women who are raped to have children as well. So basically these handmaids are raped by these commanders who are the husbands of the household and forced to have the children for the family. I mean, seriously, what are we living in fucking Gilead? Like, is that what this is? Or are we going to treat these women like handmaids, the women that get raped? We're going to force them to have children? For what reason? Like, is that the world we live in? No, it's not the world we live in.
No, well, that's why it's 13 states in the U.S. That's the world they live in.
Right. That's why these shows are fucking fiction. And it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to create environments where this is what it's like. I mean, it's how much more vulnerable do you want to make somebody feel? I mean, the trauma,
exposed.
Yeah, the trauma that they go through, just experiencing what happened to them. And then you're going to make them go through the risk of having a child to begin with, which is dangerous. Like, yeah, I get it. Not everyone dies giving birth to it. Probably far fewer women die giving birth to a child. But I mean, it's outrageous.
The fact that you're not giving them the choice.
Right.
Going back to bodily autonomy, you are taking away them to decide what is best for their body. There is no other way to describe that.
There's not. It's insane. And to put someone through that kind of trauma and then make them relive that trauma by going through 9 months of a pregnancy, Like, come on, what are we doing here? How extreme are you going to make this? And this is where you lose people. And this is why, look, you got 58% of the population who never wanted Roe v. Wade overturned to begin with. So it was already a majority, which again, we for some reason don't listen to the majority in this country, which I have no idea why. And then you got 35% of them who now want it overturned, the decision overturned. So what are we doing here? And then the other point that we don't talk about is how many women are going to potentially die, like we've said, from not having the abortion for other health reasons, whether it be through childbirth or whatever the after effects are. We've looked up on Ireland. They initially had a significant amount of deaths through childbirth when the women were forced to give birth as opposed to them being denied their abortions. And then they overturned the decision.
Yeah, after a lot of people died.
Right. So what are we going to do? Are we going to wait?
We're going to wait till a lot of people die.
We're going to wait for a stat that comes out that shows that these numbers, like basically what they're going to do is they're going to track every woman who was denied an abortion and forced to give pregnancy. And then we're going to wait for that stat to jump up to a point where so many women have died now that you realize the moral flaw in the decision of overturning Roe v. Wade and forcing these women to give pregnancy. Like, that's what you're going to wait for. You're going to wait for a atrocious stat like that to make the decision to finally backtrack this extreme view that you have of what women should or shouldn't be able to do with their bodies.
Well, it's an extreme view, and that's why they're waiting for an extreme result. Like,
it's outrageous.
It's fucking insane.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, was that really what we need? Are we really not above and beyond that at this point in this country? What are we walking backwards here?
See, this is regressing.
It is.
This is 1 billion % regressing.
It's complete regression. It's like, instead of just moving forward and doing the right thing. I mean, listen, and the crazy part about it is I said this in the beginning. This is something that has been untouched for over 2 decades.
50 years.
50 years. Like no one's ever made a problem about it. And that, I mean, yeah, of course, pro-lifers do, but not to the extreme where it's ever even been contemplated of overturning it.
No, and I think he's talking about the term pro-lifer. I think it's a very important distinction to understand that the idea of being pro-choice does not mean pro-abortion. The idea of being pro-choice means simply that I believe in your right to decide what is best for your body.
Correct.
On the whole, I don't love the idea of abortion. I don't.
No.
I think it's not great, but I understand that it is not my decision to make. It is your decision to make with your spouse, with your healthcare provider, and at the very end of the day, what is best for you.
Right.
When you take away that ability from somebody, you are limiting their freedoms. There's no fucking other way to describe it. You cannot argue that point.
No, you can't. The government should never be in control of somebody's body, period, male or female.
But
like that's, as my mother said, that's part of liberty, life and liberty.
14th Amendment, man.
Right. So how can you get involved? You should never be involved. It should be a fucking no-fly zone for you, period.
Well, yeah.
Okay, listen, and I'm not saying that abortion is a good thing, okay? But I don't have a problem, depending on circumstance, with women making the choice to have an abortion, okay? If there's always circumstances that dictate the behavior and what people do in life. You should never be able to take that away from them.
Regarding a woman's reproductive rights, I don't feel that she should ever have to face discrimination or barriers.
No.
Like that those are basic, fundamental human rights that should be granted to people in this country.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's not being infringed upon. It was overturned. It's done.
It's
How
wild.
do you tell me we're not regressing?
Oh, it's a complete regression. I mean, look, even back then, we knew enough to put it in play, right? Like, the case was won. Like, even back then, like, we knew better. And now you're telling me what? We don't anymore? We're just going to what? You're going to, like I said, we're going to keep referencing. You're just going to basically have these women all compared to the handmaids, right? They're going to be raped and forced into pregnancy.
That's what's happening. Again, 13
right.
states, yes, they are raped and forced into pregnancy.
And they're going to what? They're going to have serious and potential health problems for the rest of their life, pre or post pregnancy, while they're on the table, and you're still going to force them to give birth. Like, it's insane. They're basically saying, what? I believe that they can't terminate the pregnancy unless they're literally about to die on the table. Like, are you fucking joking with me? That's insane.
I got another one for you. So there was a woman, her name is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, I think J.C. Staten.
Staten, yeah.
Staten. And she had a molar pregnancy, which a lot of times the fetus isn't viable. In this case, it was not. So She goes to her doctor. I believe Oklahoma. I believe she was in Oklahoma. But she had a molar pregnancy, and in some of those cases, too, it can become cancerous, about 15% of the time. In her case, unfortunately, it was going to become cancerous. So she goes to her doctor. She started hemorrhaging real bad one night, went to the emergency room.
Right.
They did some tests, found out, oh, shoot, this is unfortunately a molar pregnancy. You're not going to come to term with this baby. It's not possible.
Right.
Like this is done. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. In this one, it was not going to be able to. So she goes to her doctor. She said within the first week, she was transferred to 3 different Oklahoma hospitals. And doctors, she said that doctors had advised her to leave the state. This is not going to be like an overnight quick fix kind of thing.
Right. And they weren't being dicks about it.
She flat out said they were very sincere. They weren't trying to be mean. But, they said the best we can tell you to do is sit in the parking lot. And if anything else happens, we'll be ready to help you. But we can't touch you unless you are crashing in front of us. And this is a quote, crashing in front of us, or your blood pressure goes so high that you're fixing to have a heart attack.
Right. Which is absolutely
so short of her being in the process of death, they can't help her.
Right.
So I want to take it a step further. And this is primarily that was done in Oklahoma. There was a university professor, University of Michigan, Dr. Michelle Heisler. And what she did was she had several young women called 34 hospitals in the state of Oklahoma with a script. And the script was essentially, hey, I'm pregnant for the first time. I'm trying to decide which Oklahoma hospital to go to for care and wanting to understand the hospital's policies and processes for providing abortions.
Right.
So essentially it was kind of like a secret shopper. These young women weren't pregnant. Just, hey, let's get a feel for the kind of answers that we get. And Dr. Heisler said, what we hadn't anticipated is what we found. The confusion, contradictory statements, and the misinformation. 3 of the 34 hospitals said they just never provide abortions.
Right.
So even if it got approved by the Oklahoma Supreme Court, you're good to go. Their doctors wouldn't do it.
They'll refuse it.
And I guess that's their right. I thought if a person is what they call the Hippocratic Oath.
It's the Hippocratic Oath. Right. Yeah, do no harm.
Yeah. If somebody comes to you for help, you have to help them. Isn't that kind of like the thing?
It is, but these fucking nut jobs rationalize it around saying, well, do no harm applies to the baby.
So,
what? No, it applies to everybody.
So are you saying now that a fetus has the same rights as the human, and when it comes to saving the human, you need to treat the fetus equally and separately in the eyes of the law?
Well, that's what some of these extremists believe.
That's fucking insane.
It's nuts.
So 3 of the hospitals said, well, we'll never do it. 4 of the hospitals said that doctors needed to go through an approval process to be able to provide a medically necessary abortion. So that the doctors weren't qualified to provide abortions,
which I think is outrageous.
Yes.
I think that's a fucking joke.
14 hospitals provided unclear answers about whether there was such an approval process. So you have 3, 4, 7, and 14. That's 21. 21 out of 34 hospitals, which is just about 60%.
Right.
Just over 60%. So just over 60% of the hospitals in Oklahoma have no fucking idea what's happening.
So basically, they should just all hang signs outside the hospital saying, we're pro-life, go fuck yourself.
It also could be the confusion, and they don't want to stand the chance of facing life in prison. They don't know. It's not. You could have these doctors who are extremely...
Get clarity on it. Demand clarity on it.
So that's what's fucked up. So Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt pledged to sign every piece of pro-legislation that came across my desk. He's kept that promise. 1 of 3 Oklahoma abortion bans came with criminal penalties, including felony charges and up to 5 years in prison for anyone who administers, prescribes, or quote-unquote advises a woman on an abortion. The stakes for interpreting the laws correctly are high for doctors and hospitals. So whether it's a Hippocratic, my whole thing is if you're truly a doctor and you're going under the pretense of you believe in the Hippocratic Oath and you're going to help somebody who comes to you for help.
Right.
They're doing it out of fear, or they're not doing it out of fear is what it looks like.
They should flip this argument around on men and see how it goes. What they should say is they should present men with basically saying, oh, well, you have a cancerous tumor on your balls, but you're still able to reproduce. So we can't cut them off. How do you think that would go?
I think
because
if
you can
men
still
were the
help
ones who got pregnant, we would never have had to overturn Roe v. Wade.
No, we
because
wouldn't.
It would have never occurred in the first place.
What if
because it would have been whatever the fuck a guy wants.
Right, but what if they flipped that argument around? Seriously, what if they said, because obviously men play a role in reproduction,
sure,
that regardless of the fact that you have a cancerous or potentially cancerous tumor on your balls, you cannot cut them off because you will no longer be able to contribute to the reproduction of a child. So you're going to have to live through it until it becomes extremely or near mortal.
Yeah. Until it's, until your balls are the size of cantaloupes,
Right.
we can't help you.
What do you think would happen then?
No, it wouldn't happen.
They turn their fucking heads.
Yeah.
And are you kidding me?
You'd see in Senate, fucking heads would just start exploding.
Oh, dude, there'd be not one fucking senator, congressman, and anything. They would never get behind any of it. It's just such a fucking outrageous double standard too.
Some of the arguments really bother me.
Well, they're just so fucking bananas, some of these arguments.
Yeah, some of the positions. So some of the ones that I did want to address.
Just while you're reading that,
Yeah.
listen, you could take any position you want.
Yeah,
okay? And that's fine. You have the right to take any position you want. But in the end, we're a society where we all need to coexist together, okay, and live in peace with each other. And not imposing your beliefs onto other people is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Not taking away people's rights to make decisions for themselves is a huge part of it. We need to respect each other. And when you do things like this, you're not showing the respect and consideration deserved by everybody in this country, especially the women. So how can we all live in a society together peacefully when everybody's always trying to push an agenda? Always. And there's never any compromise.
That's the thing. You're forcing an agenda. So here's the thing with being pro-choice versus being pro-life. Pro-choice is just that. You have the choice. Pro-life, I need to follow your ideologies.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because
Why?
you believe that, and this is the religious, the secular argument is the one that always drives me up a wall.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Because you have the Roman Catholic doctrine believes that life begins when the egg is fertilized, right?
Right.
Judaism believes that life begins at first breath. The Muslim position, general Muslim position, is about 16 weeks, what they call ensoulment.
Right.
So about 120 days. In their beliefs, that's when consciousness happens, when the soul enters the body. So 60. So you have at breath, first breath. You have at conception. You have 16 weeks, and then the Buddhist belief is, I hope I'm saying this right, Citta, C-I-T-T-A. They believe that when Citta arises, meaning again consciousness in the body,
Right.
give or take about 12 weeks.
right.
So who's right? What religion's right, Chris? Because if one's right, three are wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
What is your argument for when like it's not for you to decide?
No, it's not.
Don't tell me, well, I read it in a book. Well, God said so. Who's God?
Right.
Your God? Because my God's different.
Right.
Also, 93% of abortions take place in the first 12 weeks anyway.
Which is fine. Listen, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be boundaries set at all, but what they're doing now is they're setting no boundaries for either side. I mean, they're just saying basically this is the deal, live with it, deal with it, and that's it. I mean, how the fuck can you have a conversation about something when people are acting like that? I mean, when you're putting these women at the risk that you're putting them at.
But you say like the other positions or the other arguments, well, abortion is murder. Well, no, because if you're considering abortion murder. Now you're considering either an embryo or a fetus to have equal rights.
Right.
So again, going back to what I stated earlier, let's just say the mother is sick, right? Like
Right.
this, if I don't get this out of me, it's going to cost me my life, and I'm not ready to die.
Right.
I have 3 kids. I have a spouse. I want to continue to live my life. I'm not ready for this. I'm deciding based on my own health with my healthcare provider, I'm getting an abortion. Well, now you can't because you have to consider the fetus to have its own separate and equal rights as you, because that's your argument. If you're telling me abortion is murder, you're telling me you have a person inside of you with the rights equal to mine.
Right.
It's a bullshit argument. And just one quick way, there's a bunch of different ways to counter it, but I wonder all the time too, all these pro-lifers, you think they're all organ donors?
No,
Okay.
I do not.
So in the event that you pass away, and let's say you have a viable liver, or viable kidneys, a
Right.
viable heart, viable lungs, and you choose not to give that to another person that could live, you're murdering somebody, aren't you?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's because they believe in. They'll go to the religious end of it and say, "Well, I don't believe in the desecration of my body."
Yeah. Right. Okay. But
Like,
you're killing
right.
somebody.
Right. You have the right
Yeah,
to do what you want to do with
you
your
don't want to
body.
be an organ donor.
Right.
But what
Right.
if I told you? So let's take all these pro-lifers. What if I told you had to be an organ donor?
Right. What if I told you that you had to desecrate your body in death?
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Then the whole argument changes.
No, you can't do that.
Right.
Because it's my freedom. It's my body.
Right. That's exactly what they would say.
Oh, that's fucking interesting,
Right.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's weird.
Really fucking interesting. Really fucking convenient too.
Now I'm trying, and then they'll rationalize saying, but what are they going to rationalize? But and the bigger part of it is you're dead, so why do you care? Like that's and they'll lose because why do you care? At that point, you're dead. These are living, breathing women, right? And you have no problem forcing it on them. But in death, you can't have your body desecrated because it's part of your religious beliefs. Yeah, okay, go fuck yourself.
The bullshit one. What if that person's going to cure cancer?
Right.
What if that's the next president?
Yeah, okay.
What if the person who got pregnant was going to cure cancer and now they're not because they have a fucking kid?
Right.
What if the person was going to be the next president, but they couldn't do it because they had a fucking kid?
I know. Let's gamble with people's lives on what ifs.
What if that's going to be the next fucking Hitler?
Right.
It's such a stupid argument. What if?
Right.
Don't give me what ifs. Give me facts. The facts are my doctor said that this is not a viable pregnancy. In me maintaining this fetus, this embryo in my body, whatever stage it's at, can cause me death. It can cause me cancer, which in the fact of J.C. Staten, she might now need to get chemo because she couldn't get the abortion in due time.
Right.
They're still scraping fucking cancerous tissue out of her.
Well, God forbid, let's hope not. She'll be the first stat, okay, of someone that died due to a forced pregnancy.
Yeah, she got the abortion. She went over, I believe, to Kansas, got it done.
Right.
But
she couldn't get it done quick enough.
Understand? Yeah. Right. And now she has cancerous tissue and likely has to get chemo.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like that. What was the point in all that?
This all comes down to, and here's the thing when it comes to these conversations, right? Like the idea of like, well, we need people to get together and find a common ground. I don't think that's possible.
It's unfortunate.
But you either believe what you believe or you believe what I believe. The difference is my beliefs don't force you to do anything.
No, listen, I'll make it even, maybe I'm just a simple guy, but I'll make this even simpler for everybody. Really what it comes down to, and all it should come down to, is people's own control over their body. And that's it. And if you just make it that simple, whether or not you believe somebody has the right to control what goes on in their own body, there should be no debate about it. That's it, in anything. And that's a really simple way to put it. You could be pro-life, pro-choice, whatever it is. If you believe that someone has the right, if that's liberty for us as human beings to have control and the right over our own bodies, that's as simple as it should be. There should be no debate about it. And that's what everybody should have. It should be simplified down to that. Because that's exactly what it is. I'm sorry. That's just what I believe.
No, I consider it to be a basic human right.
It is.
It is absolutely infringed.
And that's what it is, a basic human right. Yeah. So it should be a very basic argument. And that's it.
So regarding the argument of is killing a fetus the same as killing a human being, there was an article I found done from Pew Research Center, and it had Reverend Carlton Veazey, and he is the president of the was the president of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choices. So a reverend, but a pro-choice reverend.
Right.
And there was a Q&A that they had with him, and one of the questions they asked them was, you talked about the right of a woman to make any choice. Does the fetus have any rights? The response was, I do not believe that life as we know it starts at conception. I'm troubled by the implication of a fetus having legal rights because that could pit the fetus against the woman carrying the fetus. For example, if a woman needed a medical procedure, the law can now require the fetus to be considered separately and equally.
Right.
From a religious perspective, it's more important to consider the moral issues involved when making a decision about abortion. And that goes back to what we talked about, the ideas that, well, in this religion it's this religion it's that. Take the religion out of it. Keep it a moral issue, okay? Because you can't you can't have a secular argument because it can't be proven. You could say, well, the Bible says this. Whose Bible?
Right. That's your belief.
Right, your belief.
Right.
Your belief should not impose my ability to do what is best for my body.
Right.
Separation of church and state. Like, why are we regressing backwards, dude?
It's insane. It's wild, dude. It's just, it's always with these extreme issues.
It's usually, I hate to say, it's usually Christian fundamentalist ideas that are supported by Congress. If a majority of the country wasn't Christian,
we probably wouldn't have these arguments. Yeah, most likely.
I don't think that's a hot take at all.
No, probably not. Because everything that we do is based in religion.
Right, because you say, well, you're killing a fetus. Well, I'm Jewish. So
they're saying that, and then
killing a human is what they're saying.
Right, and then to say that a fetus has the same rights as a human being, it's like, dude, remember, these are the women giving birth to our children, right? Like, this fetus can't give birth. I mean, eventually, one day, right?
Could, potentially.
But they're not now.
Right.
Like, these are the women giving birth, right? They're just in that, their life would have more value to me, right? Like, what if all these women just said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not getting pregnant. What if they all just turned around and said, I'm just not doing it? I'm not putting myself at risk. I'm not going to get pregnant. We're going to be super careful to their husbands, to their boyfriends, and I'm not having a baby. I'm not bringing a baby into this world where people tell them what they can or cannot do with their bodies. And then what? Well, then next thing you know, right? Like, we're not having children anymore.
Well, that would never happen just because of
well, let's just say
a secular ideology being that the most important thing is reproducing, right? So like these far right, Christians who see pro-life as the only way, they would simply mass produce. They'd be like fucking bunnies, and then the laws would reflect their own secular ideologies.
Well, that would, but it's crazy to think like that is like a potential situation that we could wind up in over something like this. Like it's ridiculous. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to force people into a corner. You're going to force women into a corner.
You're going to force women into back alley abortions.
Right.
Where they're going to die a much higher percentage of the time than if they could get the legal care that they should be entitled to.
Right.
They should get the care that they should be legally entitled to.
Right. They're going to make them, exactly, back alley abortions. Yeah. I mean, fuck, look at what they did with syringes for heroin addicts. They made them readily available with no prescription so that they weren't sharing needles and spreading disease. Right. So they made them readily. And I bring that point up because they made it so that they didn't have to go do something illegally and potentially cause a hazardous environment for themselves and everybody else around them. So
making something illegal is not going to stop somebody from doing it. It's just going to make it more high risk.
Right. So my point is they're going to create a situation where people are now doing things that are going to cause harm to themselves. I mean, it's insane. And for something so beautiful as giving birth to a child, like you're going to put a negative spin on it. Like I don't get it. I don't see the logic behind it. You're going to make it something horrible for women to think about, to even conceive the notion. Like, seriously?
Look, I don't expect anyone after this podcast that, has strong stances on abortion to flip their views one way or the other.
No,
but I think there is things that cannot really be debated because they're fact.
Right.
And I think when that stuff goes overlooked and you begin to cherry pick what you want to fit your own narrative, you're going down a slippery slope.
You're right. I don't think anybody, I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm really not.
No.
I'm not here. I mean, listen, if something that we say resonates and, someone changes their perspective because they never thought about something a certain way, great. But that's not the point. I think more people just need to hear others come to the defense of what's going on. I think women especially need to know that they're supported, not necessarily just by men, but by people in general. That they're understood, that the situation's understood, and that we think it's wrong.
How could
that's
any
our
woman
opinion.
possibly feel like that now, though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think talking about topics like this is so important, because you need to let them know that they are supported, that there are people out there with like views. They're going to see things the way they see it, and they're going to fight to make the argument for them. Because once you start feeling hopeless, I mean, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you get all these fucking crazies that come on and they want to talk about their side of it, right? As pro-lifers. And they're so extreme in their views that they almost muffle everything else being said about pro-choicers, because the pro-choicers really aren't extreme. They just want the right to do what they want to do with their own body.
Yeah.
But it's the pro-lifers that come out and have these extreme radical views, and they take it to the next level. And it really does. It silences everything else, because all you can focus on is what these fucking people are saying, how they want to bring charges up against doctors and women for having abortions, right?
Or spouses or anyone who helps drive them to go get the abortion.
Right. It's like, who are these people? Like, what are you talking about? Someone's spouse? Like, really? I mean, a spouse can't even be compelled to testify against their spouse in court, but you're gonna charge them criminally for assisting their wife to go get an abortion
after getting a medical professional opinion.
Right. For protecting the woman that they're married to, because they don't want them to die or potentially be harmed by some potential health risk.
Cancer.
Right. Like, are you serious? You're going to penalize a husband for looking out for the woman he's married to and loves?
Listen, this decision to overturn Roe Wade was a huge fucking step back for our country.
It really was.
A massive fucking step back.
It was. And the crazy thing is, I don't consider myself liberal, but I'm not a fucking idiot either. And I can have a point of view on both sides. And I'm also not an extremist.
Yeah, that's it. Whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative, whether you're fucking libertarian, whether you're moderate.
Right.
Woman's business is her own fucking, or a woman's body
Right.
is her own fucking business.
Right.
The difference between someone who's pro-choice and pro-life is a pro-choice person is giving you the option. The pro-life person is telling you, I know what's best for your body.
Right.
Who the fuck are you?
Right. Absolutely. You should listen. Like I said, the government should never be involved in anything involving someone's body. Short of someone killing another person, that's fine.
You are ridding people of their 14th Amendment.
Right. You are.
You are getting rid of their ability to decide what is best for their body.
Right.
Their reproductive rights, you are fucking with them.
Absolutely.
We're taking them away. There is no other argument to be had.
No.
There's no other position to take where you think it's okay to tell somebody what they can and cannot do with their own body.
And it's great. And that's why I think
I'll fucking die on that hill.
Yeah, that's why I think some of these extremists, like these with these radical views, I think that's why they get so crazy with these views, because they're really, they have no argument, right? And have you ever noticed someone, they kind of get stuck in a corner with their argument? They change, like we've encountered it. They change their argument every time you pin them down.
Well, they'll present a point and then you counter the point, and
Right.
then they don't have a counter for that. So it's like, okay, well, A is out the window. Let's go down to B.
Right.
Then you counter B. Well, shit, they got me on that too. Then they go to C.
Right.
They got me on that too.
And they keep doing it, and every view and every fucking rationalization becomes more and more extreme.
It becomes an attack.
It does. It becomes an attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you're not talking about the subject at hand. Now you're just flailing.
Right. Now you're just saying things because you don't want to be proven wrong, or you don't want to submit that you lost the argument.
Nope, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right. We got that too.
Yeah. And good. You know what? Engage with us. And listen, maybe I'll learn something too from a pro-lifer. Or maybe there's a point of view that I haven't yet considered.
Right.
And if that happens, God bless. That's a great thing. I love to continue to learn. I love to continue to be educated. I don't see it happening.
I mean, we should all be open to learn from one another.
Shall we open the conversation? The difference, though, this isn't a conversation. These are laws that enacted that limit people's abilities to their own lives.
Right.
It's not a conversation anymore. Now people are being told what they can and cannot do. It's past a conversation. Now fucking amendments are being infringed upon. Now people are being told, and now doctors are being told, even though I've given you my professional medical opinion, you still tell me to go fuck myself.
Right.
And if I assist any further, I'm going to go to jail for life, get fined $100K, and have my license revoked. We're past conversation. That's the fucking problem here.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to create like a Dr. Kevorkian-like atmosphere where doctors are literally doing.
So let me give you another one.
Assisted abortions, like
let's
on
say
the
assisted
low.
suicide, right? So let's just say, because a lot of the arguments center around the idea that, well, you're killing a fetus, you're killing something that has the capacity to be a human.
Right.
Okay. What about somebody who's in a vegetative state, right? Somebody who has doctors, there's zero brain activity. There's no chance for recovery.
Right.
Like this is not, hey, look, say a miracle, say a prayer, maybe we'll get a miracle. No, there's no chance. This person's going to be on a ventilator, life support the rest of their life. They're going to lay in a hospital bed. They're slowly going to deteriorate. And then sooner or later, they're going to die. Do you want to pull the plug? Well, you can't because it's assisted suicide. Well, what do you mean? What's the quality of life for that person?
Right.
Of course you can pull the plug. You have the option to pull the plug.
That's why they have DNRs.
If you have a DNR.
Right.
Went through it with my uncle.
Yeah.
He had cancer, beat the cancer, but he kept having issues because he had an issue with the tumor on his spine, couldn't walk.
Right.
Kept having to go to the hospital. Finally said to my mother, Donna, I can't do this anymore. Like, I want a DNR.
Right.
That's his choice to fucking make.
Absolutely. And if these people believe that people should not have the choice to do that, then you should eliminate the ability to have a DNR. I mean, we have those, right?
Yeah.
You're giving that person the option to decide whether or not you resuscitate them. So, and they're choosing not, and you're allowing them to make that choice.
You want to go to the extreme, keep going to the extreme, keep going to the extreme. What about a person who, God forbid it happened to a pro-lifer, let's just say God forbid it happened to their child.
Right.
You want to watch your child be in a hospital bed? Let's say became in a vegetative state.
Right.
That's what you want for your child?
Yeah, you absolutely. No, I agree. And their whole argument will change. Let their child wind up in a position where they're pregnant.
Yeah.
And they have to go through a potentially life-threatening circumstance to conceive the child because they're not allowed to have an abortion. Let's see how quick that pro-lifer's point of view changes when they have to worry about their daughter dying on an operating table.
This is a high-risk pregnancy.
Right. Then let's see what they have to say. See, everybody wants to talk. It's so easy
to tell somebody what to do with their own
body.
Right, yeah.
Until you're in the situation. And that's what people don't do enough. They don't take into consideration. They don't put themselves in the other person's shoes enough. They just want to die on the sword.
No, and that's what I want to see. what hill are you going to die on now?
Right.
Are you going to die on the hill of your own political and religious ideologies?
Right.
Or your daughter?
Just remember, it always comes back. Make these decisions now, push these things on people, and watch. You're going to find yourself in the situation one day where you are now the victim of it, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to be the same person that fought to take away that option from yourself, and now you're fucked. And then what? Watch how quick you become a pro-choicer.
You want to see, here's a good one for us. This is from Time Magazine. So this is the case of a 10-year-old girl who had to travel from a home in Ohio to Indiana, to receive an abortion after being raped. The child, then nearly 6.5 weeks pregnant, could not legally receive an abortion in Ohio due to the state's fetal heartbeat law, which went into effect after the court abolished her constitutional right to an abortion. The doctor phoned Indianapolis physician Dr. Caitlin Bernard, who agreed to perform the procedure. Bernard went public with the story on the Indianapolis Star. 10-year-old girl,
Right.
got pregnant, couldn't get an abortion.
10 years old. You believe that shit?
10.
What happened to protecting our children?
We're done with that.
Seriously.
I mean, there's 16 other things I could fucking go off on, but we'll save that for other
No,
conversations.
I'm just saying, like, this is the generation of tomorrow. What happened to protecting them? What, now it's open season on them?
No, now they have to go to other states
Right.
to care.
Right. They have to abide by this. Right. These are kids that can't even be tried as adults at that age because they don't know the difference between right or wrong. And then they accidentally somehow get pregnant at that age and not knowing any better, because that's how it would be viewed in the eyes of the court. They're going to be forced now to have the pregnancy off of a mistake that they made, not understanding the true consequences of their actions. Are you fucking kidding me?
Let me keep reading this for you because this is how fucking disgusting it's getting. The response from both sides of the abortion debate have been uncompromising. For advocates of abortion rights, including President Biden, the girl was an example of how new abortion restrictions were already harming the most vulnerable people. But abortion opponents have doubled down. Jim Bopp, an Indiana lawyer and general counsel for the National Right to Life, believed the girl should have carried the child to term. Quote, "She would have had the baby, and as many women who have had babies as a result of rape, we would hope that she would understand the reason and ultimately the benefit of having the child."
The benefit. You hear these people? The benefit. At that age, what fucking benefit could they possibly understand?
We don't think, as heart-wrenching as those circumstances are, we don't think we should devalue the life of the baby because of the sins of the father.
Right. That's insane. It's not even something you can argue. There's nothing you can say to people like that because they're delusional.
A 10-year-old girl who was raped
Right.
should have the baby to term because she'll see the value of the beauty of life.
Right. She's 10 years old.
She's 10.
She doesn't even see the value of her own life at
She
that
can't
point.
make a fucking peanut butter and jelly.
Right. Like, what are you talking about? What do you think, that they process the same way an adult does? Are you kidding?
She can't hold sharp knives.
Right. Are you fucking kidding? They still have safeties on cabinets in the house because she's fucking 10 years old. I mean, are you joking? And you want her to put value on a life? She doesn't even understand what life is.
No.
And that's the argument you make? One day what? After she goes through the trauma over and over and over again, hopefully she comes out of it without having, God knows how many fucking mental issues
Also,
and
just
therapy
the
hours.
physical nature of a 10-year-old carrying a child to full term.
Oh,
Could you even imagine
No.
how small a 10-year-old child is?
putting a 10-year-old through the trauma of it, having to constantly
She's already been
live-
raped.
Right. Like, what are you doing? You should be fucking ashamed of yourself.
Dude,
Okay.
That's what you're dealing with. That's what you're fucking dealing with.
Yeah,
So,
no.
so good. I want to see somebody in our fucking comments die on that hill.
I have nothing for people like that. People like that shouldn't even have the platform to speak. their
No, they should
opinion.
be taken out back and shot.
Right. They should never even have the platform. Anyone that gives people like that a platform to speak, fuck 'em.
You telling a 10-year-old girl,
Right.
well, look, the sins of the father notwithstanding,
Right.
you need to. Who the fuck do you think
right.
you
It's
are?
like, don't worry, sweetie. One day you'll understand the value of the life.
Who
that
are
you put
you
in
to
this
tell
world.
me
Right.
what I should understand?
Right.
What value I should see
Right.
in this?
I mean-
Who the fuck are you?
Dude, that 10-year-old girl would be looking at them like they wouldn't even understand what's coming out of their mouth. They wouldn't even be able to comprehend the discussion that's being had
Do
with
you
them.
think even if you sat with her and you explained to her the current abortion law, she'd even fully grasp?
You're
Do
still
you
trying
think
to-
she fully grasped the idea of her being pregnant?
No, dude, you're still trying to teach her how to write her name in cursive. And you want to explain to her the value of life? and pregnancy.
Idiots.
Like, are you fucking joke? For one, how about the fact that how fucking rare is that occurrence that a 10-year-old could even get pregnant like that?
And
So
it does. She's been through the trauma of being raped.
Right.
And now your response to that is, instead of, look, she's going to need counseling for life, your response is, have the kid.
Right. Let's not protect this child. Let's not do what we can
Let's
to make
further
sure.
endanger her health and mental well-being.
Right. Let's keep going with
Because
it.
my God said so.
Right. Let's see how far we can take this so that we fuck this girl up so bad that one day maybe she decides to take her own life because she can't cope with the fact of
Okay,
what
you know what?
she
He
went
should
through.
fucking raise her kid then. It's the beauty of life. Raise the kid then.
That guy shouldn't be raising any fucking kid.
No, that guy should be fucking face down in a ditch.
Right. He deserves to have no children. And if he has children, he should be ashamed of himself, and I'm sure they're ashamed of him. I fucking would be.
Yeah.
So fuck them. Anyway, we could keep going for fucking days on this topic.
Planned Parenthood, right on their website too. It has a breakdown of state by state, what laws are,
where you can and cannot
what
get.
abortion laws are
Right.
held in what state, in regards to viability, total abort or total ban, total allowance, whatever it is. So check out Planned Parenthood's website. If there's a financial issue, they also have links as well where they assist with funding, or they can send you to other locations that can assist with funding for the procedure, transportation, hotels, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, they've been great about it. So definitely check them out if you need some help. And
PlannedParenthood.org.
PlannedParenthood.org. But yeah, definitely let us know. We'd love women's perspective on this. We're definitely going to talk about it more in the upcoming episodes. We do have some great guests coming on in January, and we'll definitely be discussing it with them. But yeah, in the meantime, like I said, we'd love your perspective. Definitely feel free to comment. Let us know what you think. And yeah, definitely give us your point of view. Let us know how you feel about it. And yeah, if you feel like our point of views are valid, if you also disagree with something that we're saying, let us know. We want the feedback. Obviously, we're here defending a space that doesn't really belong to us. But nevertheless, we feel that it does need defending, and you deserve to know that you're supported. All right, that's a wrap, everybody. Definitely remember to check us out on IG at notfornothing.podcast. Check us out on TikTok at Not For Nothing Podcast, and check all full episodes out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music every Tuesday at 5 a.m. Also, everybody remember, we have that $75,000 giveaway. One of our followers or subscribers will be getting $75,000. The end date of it is February 13th. So if we hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube or followers on Instagram, or collectively 1 million between the two, we are going to give away $75,000 to one of our viewers. Remember, we really want to pay back the people who are going to help us with our success, and that is our way of returning it to you. So definitely follow, definitely subscribe, leave a comment on your favorite video to be eligible. And on February 13th, you might just be that winner. So thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you next week.
That about it.
Peace.